Yay. Welcome. My name is Valerie Kragel. I am technically, my title technically is Head of Tech Services, but I'm more like a scholarship support librarian, I guess, for our faculty at the University of Utah. Any other like faculty scholarship support people? Yay. Scholarly communications librarians, you are my people. Thanks for coming. I feel your pain. So I'm going to talk today about DOI event data, but I'm going to start with kind of some background as to why we are talking about DOI event data. I'm going to talk about how and why we measure scholarly impact in law, and how we can do this a little bit better with data. I'm going to talk about this new frontier in APIs and querying metadata, and then talk a little bit about future challenges and opportunities. Let's see if I can figure this out. Yay. Okay, so for those of you, and so is there anyone in this room who has had like their dean or their associate dean come to you and say, you know, get me all of the faculty's scholarship in the last 5 years and rank them, you know, whatever. Yeah, everyone's done that. And everyone knows, you guys know how painful that is, right? You have to go to Hein Online, and then you have to go to Westlaw, and then you have to go to Google Scholar, and then you have to go wherever, and you have to do individual counts of every person and every art. And it's just silly, right? Because we are like in this age of data, and why? Why do we have to do that by hand? And so, but you know, it's measuring scholarship is really important. There are a lot of implications for faculty in high impact scholarship. It affects promotion and tenure decisions. It affects hiring decisions. It affects author acceptances, right? So like we have to do this. We have to measure impact. And normally in law, that impact is mostly measured through citation counts to law reviews, which also is crazy in this day and age because, gosh, there's so much more. There are so many other things, you know, that people, so many other ways that people are publishing. As we speak, Greg Sisk, and you guys might know this too, is in the process of asking all of your deans who the current tenured faculty are so that he can start counting their citations in Westlaw. And this scholarly impact score is going to come out in a few weeks. And when those numbers come out, everybody kind of freaks out. Like some people are super happy about their lighter score, right? Some people are just flummoxed as to how their scores aren't higher. But again, it's this score that measures citation counts in Westlaw. A lot of us now, and I think this is happening more and more often, is that we have these interdisciplinary faculty, right, that are publishing in lots of different places. They're not publishing in law reviews. They're publishing book chapters or books, completely muted in the current rankings regime. So, you know, when I started sort of doing my own analysis of our faculty scholarship, I was just like, why is this so hard? I mean, you know, why is it so difficult to include other types of scholarship and to include other forms of engagement, you know, like social media engagement or like references in Wikipedia and stuff. And I think that I've just come to realize that we just do not have a data standard for legal scholarship. Everybody is sort of doing their own thing. So like if you have stuff in Digital Commons, you have your own set of metadata that you're doing in Digital Commons. Hein Online has its own set of metadata. Westlaw has its own set of metadata. And that all of that stuff is like proprietary too, right? And so the reason why this is so hard and why you know, the rankings regime is so insular and is so limiting and excludes so much, you know, it's because we don't have this data standard. We don't have this central authority that's like managing our data. So like people in the biomedical sciences have PubMed. They have the National Library of Medicine. The National Library of Medicine is handling a lot of metadata for the scholarship in those disciplines. We don't have that in law. We're all just sort of doing our own thing. So it's impossible to query the data for legal scholarship, you know, so it has to be limited. Also, really importantly, we're not using DOIs. Does everybody know what a DOI is? A digital object identifier? Okay, good. That's good to know. Everybody know what an ORCID is? Okay, so ORCID IDs, well, I'll explain that in a second. So for me, after just doing a lot of research and trying to figure out what to do for our law review and for our faculty, I think that it's really important for law reviews and like AALL and AALS to become members of Crossref. And I don't know if you guys know what Crossref is or if you've ever heard of Crossref, but I'll explain what it is in a second. So if we can become members of Crossref as legal publishers, we can start registering our scholarly metadata with one central repository. And then we can start using unique identifiers, persistent identifiers that we attach to our scholarship to make it easier to query. And so a digital object identifier, and sorry, in the previous slide, I showed an example of an ORCID ID. So an ORCID ID is just an identifier for an author. So like my ORCID ID is this number at the bottom. So pretty simple. A digital object identifier is a unique identifier for a digital object. So for like a PDF, right? So an article PDF. And this is what it looks like when you do any kind of research in pretty much any other discipline. The citation is going to look like this, and it'll have a DOI associated with it. It'll be embedded in the citation. All DOIs have a prefix and a suffix. So the prefix always includes a 10 point, and then the number is associated with like the journal or the institution that's a member of Crossref. So like this is for the American Association of Medical Colleges. That is their number. And then the member chooses what their suffix looks like. And so they can say, you know, prepend it with an ACM and then a number. And so this is what a DOI looks like. And there are two agencies that manage DOI registrations, Crossref and DataCite. Crossref is for academic publishing mostly. DataCite is for like repositories and big consortia. So like law journals would probably want to use Crossref. And the way that it works is that like a law review becomes a member of Crossref. It costs $275 a year, plus $1 per DOI registration. And like our law review we probably publish 30 articles a year, so it'd be an extra $30. And so the whole thing would be a little over $300 a year. So what happens is you become a member, and then when you publish an article, you deposit metadata for that article with Crossref, and it goes into this huge repository. And the metadata is just, it's, you know, title, author, ORCID ID, et cetera, et cetera. That goes into Crossref. Once the metadata is submitted to Crossref, it spits out a DOI that you put into the metadata of your article, and then you always display the DOI in your citation, which the Blue Book needs to make possible, right? And so after you get your DOI, so a DOI never breaks, right? But the metadata that's associated with it might change over time. So like you might need to change the landing page for your article, and you can change that with Crossref, but the DOI never changes. So that's what makes it persistent. That's what makes it so valuable, because you'll always be able to access it. And if the journal goes away, and if the journal's not published online anymore, there are rules that say you need to create a tombstone page or something. You need to create a page so that if somebody tries to go to your article and it's not there, there'll at least be an explanation as to why it's not there. So really valuable. And for those who do any kind of institutional reporting, I mean, hugely valuable in terms of, looking at impact and outcomes and all that kind of stuff. And so, what I'm talking about right now is aspirational. I think that there are probably 5 or 6, and maybe I'm undercounting it, but there are just a handful of us who are members of Crossref and minting DOIs in our law reviews. Is anyone here doing that? Yeah, yay. And so, this is just me. This is my wishful thinking. And so, but it's really hard. I mean, there are lots of roadblocks, and I'm aware of pretty much all of them, believe me. But so if we can get to this point where legal publishers, and honestly, we are the last holdouts in academic disciplines to not be members of Crossref and to not be doing this with our scholarship. And I think that's because like law reviews and, like our societies, we don't see ourselves as publishers. Like we see Lexis as a publisher, we see Westlaw as a publisher, we see Hein Online as a publisher, but they are not, they are the aggregators, right? We are creating the content. And so we just don't see ourselves as like, we don't curate data, and we're not stewards over our data either. But if we can do that, we can use these amazing tools called APIs. And an API is just it's an interface, right? It's just a way for me to talk to a program and for that program to respond to what I am asking it to do. Crossref has developed APIs that allow you to query its store of data really easily, and it's open to the public. And literally, it's just a link that you plug into a browser and it spits out data for you. So the two that I'm going to talk about today is, first of all, the REST API and then the event data API. And combining these two will allow for just like this beautiful holistic view of the impact of legal scholarship. So I'm going to start with the REST API. So this is just literally a link that you can use to directly query Crossref and Crossref member data. So let's say I want to know how many records are in Crossref. I use this link, I just put it in a browser and it tells me the number. Again, how many articles are in Crossref? Of all the records, how many are articles? Again, I just use that link and it gives me my answer instantaneously. So let's say I wanted to, that's kind of hard to see that link at the top, but you can kind of see it. Wonder if I can, no. Okay, so what this link is doing is it's querying Crossref. It's asking it to give me all of the data for all the works for my faculty at the University of Utah College of Law. And I'm asking it to give it to me in basically a table that includes the DOI, the title, and the citation count for their works. On the left is so this is just, and I got thousands of results, right? So I got all of the things that have a DOI associated with it. So basically I didn't get any of their law reviews. But I got book chapters and I got articles that they had published outside of the law review regime. And so it gave me, and so this is giving me, so this is like 2 examples. And so this book chapter on the left, and I'll just translate the data. So this is a book chapter authored by Tony Onke, and you can see the DOI, you can see the citation count, and then on the right is a journal article authored by Clifford Roski, who is one of our faculty, and it also gives information about his co-author, which is really nice, and again gives a citation count at the top. So anyone who's had to do this manually can totally appreciate this, right? And this is one query on one source. And neither one of these is going to be counted in the current ranking system, because one's a book chapter and one's not a law review. And so these are just completely invisible to the rankings. So that was the REST API. So the DOI event API works by, so Crossref developed a piece of software called an agent. And it put these agents out there on the web that are looking for activity associated with DOIs. So let's say somebody adds an article from your law review in a Wikipedia page. A DOI agent or a Crossref agent will notice if there's a DOI associated with that article. It'll notice this, it calls it a relationship. And it'll notice that activity and then, put it away somewhere so that you can access it later. There are three parts to event data. The first is the subject. So where was the research mentioned? Wikipedia, another article, Reddit. An object. So this is which research type was mentioned. Was it a book chapter? Was it an article? Was it a data set? And a relationship. How is it mentioned? Was it cited, discussed, added, etc.? So these are the sources that Crossref consults. At this moment, it's kind of limited. I would think that like legal scholarship would show up in these places, maybe WordPress too. I know that there's a lot of like conversation on Reddit about legal issues, but I don't know how much they like refer to legal scholarship. Okay, so this is what the data for a data event, a Crossref event looks like. And what I'm doing here is querying the Texas A&M law review. And I'm using Texas A&M as an example because they've been in Crossref for a while. And my friend Aaron Ratine, who's like amazing, he has set up this whole program with his law review where they are involved in every process of like depositing metadata with Crossref. And so they just have this great data. So they have all these events because they've been in Crossref, I think at least three years, maybe 3 or 4 years. So they have all these events associated with their law review. And so the query that I do for event data, you can see sort of in the URL where it says event.crossref.org. And I'm asking Crossref to give me all the events associated with this 10.37419. That is Texas A&M Law Review's prefix. So I can ask Crossref to search the entire law review just with this prefix. And I got dozens of events. This is just one example. This is a Wikipedia entry. What this says, what this block of code says, is that the article, The Fifth Indifference, was added as a reference to Wikipedia, to a Wikipedia page for the Americans with Disabilities Act. And that happened on April 9th, 2021. This event is a blog mention. So the article property and intellectual property was discussed on this blog, the Bill of Health, and that happened on October 13th. This is an event for a citation, translated as the article Human Rights-Based Social Work, basically cited, Entering the Trump Ice Age, which is a Texas A&M Law Review article. So this is just a citation from one of their articles, and that happened in October 2021. So it's just like, I mean, if you've ever had to do this manually, you know how major this is. Like you can just do one query and it gives you not just a citation count, but like everything associated with all this evidence, of this event. Caveats, of course, everyone has to do this. Like every law review and every legal publisher sort of has to play this game if this is going to matter at all, because it doesn't make any sense to use these APIs if only like 50% of us are doing it, right? Because then, I mean, it doesn't matter. But Crossref, the caveats with Crossref itself are that, you know, it can't check the entire web. So it's only checking sort of like academic sites. It can't, if there's no URL at all associated with the object, obviously it's not going to record it as any kind of event either. If there's just a URL, it can interpret that. If there's just a regular URL and it's associated with it, a DOI, it will find the DOI just from a regular URL, but there has to be a URL. And of course, it won't do the data analysis for you. And it can't access data that's not public. So it's not going to access stuff on Westlaw. So, you know, if all my dreams came true and we all were doing this, I think some future opportunities would be to have Crossref include things like Zotero libraries for analysis with event data. It'd be nice if they could somehow fix their relationship with X, formerly Twitter. Twitter used to be a source of analysis for Crossref, but that relationship broke when it became X. And it'd be nice if they looked at blogs like Above the Law and Law Prof blog, because scholarship is mentioned a lot in those places. And then it would be really nice if they added downloads as a relationship, right? So not just mentions, not just citations, but it'd be great if they included downloads as part of all of that too. And it'd be nice if Westlaw and Lexis and Hein exposed their metadata for scrutiny, but that maybe will never happen. So that's all I had. Any questions? Oh, we're saving questions for the last, right? Okay. Anyone? Yeah.
I mean, this is amazing. Thank you. And I think we kind of acknowledge you skipped over the big obstacle, which is the adoption.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's almost off topic of your talk, which is a really good incentive. Like, we're really trying to assemble incentives to get adoption. And this is a really good one. Unfortunately, it only affects us, the ones who are doing all the work already.
Right.
But how do you feel about adoption generally? Sorry. So just generally, how do you feel about how we're going to get adoption going?
So thank you. So the two things are, so people are really worried about the cost, which is, it's like, how is $300 like prohibitive? I don't understand how $300 a year for Crossref is prohibitive. And then people are really afraid that it's a lot more work. And one of the main things that they're worried about is one of the requirements as a member of Crossref is that you have to do this thing called reference linking. So like a law review article, you know, in the citations, if something has a DOI, you're required as a Crossref member to include DOIs for any reference that has a DOI. I mean, that's just, they require that. It's not like they police that. But and so people are really like, oh, that's so much extra work, but it's really not, because no law reviews are like, you don't have to, you know, add a DOI to a law review article. But like articles in the sciences, I can't believe that we're using publisher links in those citations when we should be using DOIs, like, you know, the example that I showed you before of that publication. And so I think that's just a matter of education. It's not like extra work, but it is education. So everybody's just so busy already and so overwhelmed that this is just another thing that people just don't want to do. But one of the things that I've been talking to Hein Online about, Hein Online taking on this role of like minting DOIs for law reviews and taking on that stewardship role instead of law reviews, because I don't think we're going to get adoption any other way. And if they just do it as a part of their regular service of ingesting law reviews already, I think that is maybe a good solution to adoption. So.
But then the DOI is resolved to pay sites.
No, so the DOI, so the law review would become a member of Crossref. And so they would have their own landing page. And so it would just resolve to their landing page, not Hein. Yeah. Yeah.
Do we know if anyone talked to the Blue Book editors about being a
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, it just,
and, you know,
yeah.
and a couple of the
Yeah.
or, you know, other things.
So we've, and there's kind of a group of us that have published articles on DOI and DOI adoption and stuff. And we have approached them just like, I mean, persistent URLs are basic, like border, it's just like, why is there no guidance on this? And I haven't really heard anything, and I don't, it would be a game changer if they would provide some guidance there, because it is extra work to train your law review. And the law review doesn't care what the librarian has to say, right? They're just like, well, that's so much. But if the Blue Book was like, you have to use a DOI, if there is one associate, then they would do it. Yeah.
Anecdotally, I heard that Blue Book editors, some of them have said that DOIs were ugly, even though Perma-CC is just as ugly. But
Wow.
that
Aesthetics.
second or third
That's
hand.
why legal academic publishing is very.
But
Yeah, seriously. Oh my
it's
goodness.
a rotating board, just like journal.
So you can start growing them like they do the Federalist sign.
It changes, it's not a good.
Thank you. Those are great questions. Thanks so much.
I go into a browser too, real quick. Or will I skip? I'll just skip that. All right. I had some. Sorry. So I had some poll questions for you. I'm going to skip it for the sake of time. Logging, I don't know the password. It's on my computer somewhere. So I've come with some bad news. No, I'll start with some good news. I convinced two of our, so I work at the University of Houston Law Center. I convinced two of our journals to adopt DOIs this next academic year. And one or maybe both might incorporate orchids. I've also got orchids for all our faculty there, and we're populating them for the last 5 years of their academic works in order to start the ball rolling. So that's some good news. Okay, I'll intersperse that with some bad news. You may have saw on the program I was supposed to be with somebody who is way smarter and better and experienced than me, Amanda Watson. I know some of you know her very well. She recently decided to abandon me in Houston to take over Harvard's law library, where she is in talks about getting DOI instructions put into the Blue Book with Jonathan Zitran, who's like her dean boss person, whatever. So there is movement on that as well. So that's some good news. Okay, and then the last piece of bad news is I have very little to say. I want to hear what y'all have to say. So this isn't really a presentation. So Amanda and we did this presentation before somewhere else. I'm farming for ideas. And so I'm just going to quickly explain to you what the point of this is. And then, yeah. So I went to library school here. A lot of what we did while I was here was talk about how shitty legal publishing is. All the problems that we face on a daily basis, like persistent identifiers, et cetera, billing, licensing, what have you. I had recently been in law school and saw the expense or the cost of case books, which are primarily public domain documents that I have to spend $300 a class for. So I'm still pissed off about that. And so Amanda will come into my office and we'll bitch and moan about all the different things that Elsevier is buying up everything and whatever. So, and then also Amanda got into an argument. She did this paper where she was talking about how treatises are kind of garbage now because they don't count for scholarship a lot of the time and they're a pain in the ass to update. So she got into a fight. Yeah, they don't sit well for tenure standards, and they're really expensive and time consuming to update, right? So treatises are kind of becoming less good. Also, you know, once they're put on Westlaw, all the format is garbage. And it's just much harder to use than in the print edition, right? Anybody want to fight me on that? Awesome. Okay, cool. So Amanda, who would have been here, I have a quote that has been attributed to her before. Rob is brilliant and the most wonderful person I've ever met. If I was there, I would just get in his way. You should listen to him. There's disputes as to whether or not she said this, but I like to think that she did. So Amanda, who recently, you know, is just, what's today? 10 days ago, took over Harvard's law library. She now has power, she's in the seat of power. That's where Langdell came from, right? She now has the bully pulpit and she has a team of people who can actually innovate some things and she has money to do it with. So we decided that we wanted to farm your ideas so that we could write a paper about what we'd like to do about legal publishing. And then maybe Amanda and whoever she's with can do it. So that's why we're here. So this is what I would like to do. I'm going to give you some themes for discussion. And wherever you are, I just want you to think about, like, what do you like about things? What do you hate about things? And what do you think we could maybe do about it? And I'm going to come around and I'm going to take notes and I'm going to farm all your ideas. And then we'll talk about it with whatever time we have left over, whatever everybody thinks the best ideas are. Sound good?
I think.
Okay, so this might help. Bye, Amanda. So themes for discussion. And we don't have a lot of time, so I'm not going to explain all these. You're all very smart. Cost and pricing models, problems, right? If Amanda was here, she'd give you all kinds of statistics that I don't care about, but I know they're bad. How to access and loan things. That's a problem for all of us, right? Updating things, you know, the things look out of date. Students don't want to use stuff that looks out of date. That's a problem. Authorship, faculty status, et cetera, who's writing this crap? Whether or not you own something or you're licensed something, how these things are preserved. And then finally, usability and features. I think I care a lot about accessibility, and I know that's a really big problem when it comes to legal publishing. So does that answer your question? Okay, so now what I'm going to do for the next 15 minutes is let you talk about it, and then I'm going to confirm your ideas, and then we'll talk about it. Sound good? Yeah? Okay, do it. Yeah, get in there. I'm gonna go get some water.
Yeah.
And then not, like, there has like, on the lot.
Give you all about a minute to finish nerding out. Do you hear that? Hello? Hello? Okay. We have 5 minutes to put everything on the record. Who wants to start? I didn't get any ideas over here yet. How are we going to fix everything?
Burn it all down.
I'm for it.
All right, that's it. We don't even need to rebuild it.
No more law?
No more lost college.
Okay. 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 All right. Well, I like that. Yeah, I'll be able to do that. Any ideas over here?
Not especially. We talked a little bit about the problem of like quality assurance, especially with big collections. And we work at the Legal Information Institute at Cornell Law School, and we're just programmers, so we're not like so much up on these issues. But
Oh, you can hear
that's
Eat the mic. Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, we were just discussing a bit about the problem of quality assurance for like we're from the Legal Information Institute, and we publish like very large collections of free law stuff. But it's really hard, like especially with the state regulations that we've been publishing. It's like 2 million documents, web pages. So it's hard to have a broad approach to not having like big chunks of empty content or links that go nowhere. And so it's a big issue we deal with. And even just like doing QA on a big collection like that is like a difficult task. So, but we didn't really come up with too many working solutions from that.
Problems are good.
Yeah.
I like problems. We can come up with something. All right. How about over here? Who wants to say stuff?
To put in a nutshell, we talked about all of it.
Formatting was a big issue.
Format.
Databases should, when they have articles and treatises and nutshells, they should make it easy to navigate chapter headings and subheadings and just really make it easy to hop around in a big document.
Maybe match the print.
And also indexes. What everybody use the indexes on Westlaw. You have to like go back, like you can't link to things. Yeah, and there's that also. There's also that. Okay. How about teenagers and the law? Nothing. Okay. And then we have something about combs over here.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say, I want to hunt down and find the person. You know, when you start in the business, you have to do a lot of filing. And there's the law practice management things that come with a little comb. We would comb the pages in, comb the pages out. It was like medieval, you know, it really was. So, you know, whoever that person was, that, you know, I would like to find.
You give them a prize or?
I don't know, but I'd say, it's amazing still how some of the older technology that we still have to use as librarians, you know, it's mind blowing. It's like, laugh right out of that, but I go, oh, that's how you still do that.
Okay, if anybody comes up with more problems or solutions that might be, we might be able to do something about now that Amanda is in Cambridge, please email me. You can find my email by looking up my name. I have a few of them. I probably should have put them up there. Any closing thoughts other than burn it down, which I'm very much for.
Don't stop it.
He's not wrong.
So one of the things that Ben talked about is how hard it is when the incentives are not to change, right? The incentives are to keep what exists kind of in place because there's too much incentive based in the system of people serving on law reviews, doing that particular kind of thing. People publishing in law reviews, not necessarily looking outside of the law as a standard. So there are people that this is the thing they know. This is the thing they know how to do. And people that are asking questions or suggesting other ideas are going to hit really hard against that very status quo, stare decisis kind of model. So trying to pull the different threads apart is really uniquely challenging. And one of the things that Ben talked about is that we, even in legal publishing, can't always decide what the purpose is of what we're trying to do and who we're trying to reach and how best to do all of those things. Is that a relatively good synopsis of
Good.
what you were trying to say?
There may be hope.
Thank you. Okay, and with that, our time is up. So thank you for helping me fix things. I appreciate you.